Select Analyze Manometric Data from the main menu. This will bring up the list of patients who've had studies. You can search for patients by entering some text from their name into the search box. Clear this by clicking on Show All Files. The columns to the left of the patient names indicates whether that study has a summary and a report. Studies can be sorted by date, alphabetically, or by size. Select the study to be analysed and click on OK to go to the main analysis screen. The markers that were entered during the study are listed in the text box on the left. If you can't read one of these properly, click on E, which will expand the text box. Click on the button again to return the text box to its normal size. The graph displayed is a colour plot of the manometric data at the selected point in the file. Markers are illustrated as a vertical red cursor with the text of the marker on the cursor. The black crosshair cursor can be moved around to interrogate the data. As you move the crosshair cursor, the pressure at the junction of the crosshairs is displayed under crosshair pressure. Pressures plotted along the X and Y axis of the crosshair cursor are displayed in the graphs below and to the right of the colour plot. If you can't see the cursor, click on the Find Cursor button, which will locate the cursor in the centre of the screen. Data can be displayed either according to the markers entered at the time the data acquisition was performed or by its position within the data log file. When the data is displayed according to the marker, the number of seconds before and after the marker is displayed is shown in these two controls. The text associated with the marker is displayed in the marker text box. You can move forward and backward to a limited extent using the buttons located above the marker text box. The data will move by the number of seconds indicated in the yellow control. You can use the expansion tools to examine the data in more detail. Clicking on the box at the left-hand end of the control reloads the original data. Be sure to select the cursor control after you have finished with the expansion control so that you can move the crosshairs again. The alternative to marker mode is data log mode. In data log mode, a specific number of data logs, which each consist of 30 seconds of data, are displayed. The position of the data within the file is displayed in the purple bar below the graphs. You can change from marker mode into data log mode by clicking on the button marked in marker mode, which will change to in log mode. In log mode, the black marker on the purple bar shows the position of the beginning of the data, and the red marker shows the position of the end of the data. You can also change to data log mode by clicking on the purple bar at the point in the file that you wish to examine. The number of the first data log displayed is indicated at the right-hand end of the purple bar, and the number of data logs shown is immediately to the right of that. You can show more or less data by adjusting this control. Move around in the data file by dragging the black marker along the purple bar. Alternatively, you can click on the purple bar or use the arrows at each end to move forward or backward by the number of data logs shown in the yellow control. You can change back to marker mode by clicking on one of the markers in the text box, or by clicking on the In Log Mode button, which will revert to In Marker Mode. In marker mode, the approximate position of the marker is also shown in the purple bar. If you click on Show Log Numbers below the marker text, this will tell you numerically which data log each marker is in. All of the buttons and text boxes below the purple bar are involved with analysis and reporting. The name of the patient is displayed on the left. When in marker mode, the current marker text is displayed in the comments box. If the marker is incorrect, you can pull down on the list of comments above this box to enter the correct comment. For example, if you had a series of swallows that were classified as upright in the original study, but were in fact right lateral, you could change this for the purpose of analysis. Note that this will not change the marker text in the original data file, but the changes are saved in the data summary file generated by the analysis program. The Notes button lets you add some of your own notes to the study, for example about technical issues. These will be saved and can be opened next time you access the file. At the right-hand end of the analysis and reporting area is a button marked Set X and Y, which is used for performing simple measurements. If you move the cursor to a particular position and then click on this button, when you move the cursor next, the distance between the original cursor position and the new cursor position is now shown in seconds and millimeters, and a velocity is calculated. This is useful for determining the velocity of a contraction or the difference in time or distance between 2 points on the screen. The first step in an analysis is to measure the basal sphincter pressure. You need to display a period of data to analyse the basal pressures. If you have a marker for the beginning of the basal pressures, go to that and then change to data log mode. This will display the data from that point. When you are satisfied that you have an appropriate period of data displayed to determine the basal pressure, click on the Measure Basal Pressure button, which will bring up the basal pressure measurement screen. In this screen, the data in the graph at the top is the data that was displayed in the analysis screen. If you cannot see the cursors, click on Find Measurement Cursors and they will return to their default positions. The graph with the grey background, immediately below the colour plot, is a plot of the virtual sleeve pressure. This is calculated as the highest pressure between the two horizontal cursors, one of which should be positioned above the lower esophageal sphincter and one below the lower esophageal sphincter. You can move the vertical cursors backwards and forwards to select times at which you wish to measure the basal pressures. These will usually be at the end of expiration and away from a swallow. The pressures for each cursor are displayed in the measured pressures. As you move the cursors, these pressures update. The green buttons below the pressures indicate which pressures will be saved as basal pressures. Click on the green button to turn it red if you do not wish to have that particular pressure recorded as a basal pressure. Once you have adjusted the cursors to your desired pressures, click on Accept Measured Pressures to return to the analysis screen. If you click on Exit Without Data, you will return to the analysis screen without the pressures saved as basal pressures. You can repeat this process as many times as you like to build up the number of basal pressures that you have measured. After returning to the main analysis screen, you can see what the current basal pressures are by clicking on Edit Basal Pressures, which allows you to see the currently saved pressures. If these are incorrect, click on the green button below the incorrect pressures, which will turn red, and these will be deleted when you click on Finished. As an alternative to manually selecting the basal pressures, you can allow the program to determine the basal pressure using an algorithm. If you press on Use Estimate Cursors, the program will calculate the frequency distribution of pressures and select the most common pressure as the basal pressure. Again, position the cursors above and below the sphincter and select the period over which you wish to measure the basal pressure. The concept of this is that the sphincter spends most of its time at the basal pressure, which will therefore be the most common pressure recorded. However, you need to be sure that there are not too many swallows in this data, or you will in fact measure the nadir pressure. When using the estimate cursors, the histogram at the bottom of the screen shows the pressure distribution frequency to help you make a decision as to whether this is an appropriate basal pressure or not. The estimate will be best when you see a single clear peak of pressures. Press Accept Measured Pressures to return to the analysis screen, although in this case you will have only a single pressure calculated over a period of time. Once you have measured the basal pressures, you are ready to classify the swallows and measure nadir pressures. Each swallow needs a classification of its peristalsis, and you need to measure several nadir pressures or IRPs during the study to get a representative sample. It is best to do this part of the analysis in marker mode because the markers were entered at the time of the swallows, so are most efficient to navigate between swallows. Click on the first marker corresponding to a swallow, and that swallow will appear in the colour plot. Move the black crosshair cursor around. The pressure at the intersection of the crosshairs is shown in the crosshair pressure box. If you position this at the nadir pressure and then click on Set Nadir to Crosshair Value, that pressure will be recorded as the nadir for this swallow. If you wish to record the nadir and the IRP using an algorithm, click on Measure Nadir Pressure stroke IRP, which will take you to the Measure Nadir and IRP screen. In this screen, the data in the colour plot is the same as in the analysis screen. The graph below is a virtual sleeve consisting of the highest pressure between the two horizontal cursors, which should be positioned above and below the LOS. Position the two vertical cursors at the beginning and end of the period that you wish to analyse. The IRP over 4 seconds and an algorithmically determined nadir pressure, which is the 10th centile of all pressures recorded in the virtual sleeve between the beginning and end of relaxation, are both displayed. To accept these values for the nadir and IRP, click on Finished. To exit without accepting these numbers, click on Exit Without Data. When you return to the analysis screen, you will see that these values have updated into the nadir and IRP boxes. If you wish to calculate the distal contractile index, click on the Calculate DCI box to be taken to a program that allows you to do that. In this screen, you need to move the two red cursors to define the top and beginning of the area in which the DCI will be calculated, and the bottom and end of this area. You can also adjust the threshold pressure above which the DCI is measured. If you can't find the cursors, click on Find Cursors and they will return to their default positions. The graphs to the right and below the cursors are the pressures along the vertical and horizontal parts of the cursor that you are moving. The blue boxes show the distance between the cursors, along with the total area selected. The DCI and the area over which the DCI was calculated are displayed in the pink boxes. To accept the measured DCI and return to the analysis screen, click Accept Data. When you return to the analysis screen, the measured DCI will be displayed in the DCI box. To classify the adequacy of peristalsis of each swallow, you select from the pull-down menu. The contents of this menu have been set in the report defaults, which is described separately and cannot be accessed from this part of the program. If you have selected a default peristalsis classification in the Manometry Analysis default screen, this will appear as a default selection. Click on Save Swallow to save that swallow and move on to the next. Give this one a classification and a nadir, and click on Save Swallow to move to the next. Repeat this for all measured swallows. If you wish to undertake a more detailed analysis of swallow parameters, click on Detailed Analysis to be taken to another screen where you can measure those. The function of this screen is described separately in the printed documentation. To view the details that are currently measured for a swallow, click on View Swallow Details. This shows all of the data that will be saved for a particular swallow, including any data from the Detailed Analysis screen. To clear the details for the current swallow, click on Clear Swallow Details and all data will return to its default value. After saving at least one swallow, the purple Edit Summary button will appear, and you can modify measurements for previously saved swallows using this. This takes you to the same screen as the View Edit Data Summary from the main menu. The functions of this are described separately. If you wish to copy data from the screen to paste into a document, you can temporarily hide the markers and cursors on the screen by clicking on the Markers Showing button. After that, right-click on the colour plot and select Copy Data. You can then paste this data into another program. You may need to crop the picture within that program. If you wish to display the markers in what you copy and paste, just right-click on the colour plot with the cursors showing, copying the data with the cursors in place. If there is an artifact in your data and you wish to hide one channel, you can turn channels on and off in the channel control situated in the top right-hand corner. If there is an artifact in your data and you wish to hide one channel, you can turn channels on and off in the channel control situated in the top right-hand corner. When you turn a channel off, the channel in the catheter display turns red. The data is interpolated between the two data points on either side. This area also allows you to adjust the channel that the program is using to set the gastric reference pressure by changing the value in the reference channel control. This should be set to one of the channels within the stomach, usually channel 16, but if that channel has artifact in it, you may wish to select another. Do not select a channel that is located in the sphincter or in the body of the esophagus to reference your pressures to. If you loaded the wrong manometric catheter at the time you acquired the data, this can be changed by clicking on Load Catheter. If you wish to view the data in conventional line plot format, click on the Colour Plot button. This will change to display the data as a line plot. There is a cursor that you can move, and the values in each channel at that point are displayed on the right. In this view, you can magnify and auto-scale the data. To return to the colour plot, click on the button again. There are a number of ways that you can modify the data displayed to account for the position of the patient or pressure drift in the catheter that might occur during the study. As the catheter is referenced in the horizontal position, when the patient is upright, you can correct for the hydrostatic pressures generated by this. Do this by adjusting the offset control to hydrostatic, which will automatically adjust for the effects of this change. Make sure you change back when you return to the supine swallows. If you have had significant pressure drift in a channel and wish to modify the pressures displayed against a baseline pressure recorded after the study, you can set some offset pressures to be removed. Go to the period of time at the end of the study where you have an underwater perfusion. Display this data in the line plot mode and position the cursor at the time where the new baselines you wish to correct for are located. As this is demonstration data, I do not have such a period in this file, but we will illustrate it using some of the recorded data. When the cursor is positioned at the point where the catheter is perfusing underwater, click on Set Offsets Now, and the values recorded at that time will become the new 0 points for each channel. The offset control changes to indicate that you are removing measured offsets. You can return to the colour plot and view the change. Use the offsets control to determine whether these offsets are corrected or not. If you change the offset control to measured offsets without having defined these, you'll receive an error message. Once you have completed analysis of all swallows, click on Generate Report, which will take you to the reporting screen. Alternatively, you can click on Stop, which will return you to the main menu.